Everybody ready? Okay. In today's economy, high-speed broadband is as essential to a community as water or electricity. But historically, Kentucky's broadband access and usage have lagged behind other areas in our country. That has damaged our ability to attract business and to explore modern opportunities in healthcare and education. Earlier this year, Congressman Rogers and I announced an ambitious plan to fix this weakness by improving high-speed broadband access across the entire Commonwealth, with the initial focus on Eastern Kentucky. Today, to bring that plan to fruition, we're announcing a public-private partnership with Macquarie Capital, a global provider of banking, financial, advisory, investment, and funds management services. We signed a contract with Macquarie last Friday, and it contains an aggressive timeline. A consortium established by Macquarie, and I think you all have in your packets the list of the different companies that are involved, and they're all represented up here. That consortium will begin work immediately to design the overall statewide system and determine the project scale. The design and cost estimates are due by the end of February. Construction of the first segments is expected to begin in the summer of 2015, and that construction is to be completed by April of 2016. Among the things they'll be looking for is how and where we can tap into existing broadband fiber systems to save time and money. Uncertainty over that at this point makes it difficult to know the total cost of this project, but we're estimating that it will be in the neighborhood of $250 million to $350 million. Some of that will be paid by $30 million in state bonds and some $20 million in federal sources. But the majority of this money will come from the private marketplace. That's one of the primary reasons we are using the public-private financing model as a vehicle for this work. Without private money, it would take many years to finish a program of this scope, if it could be finished at all. Now, when finished, more than 3,000 miles of new fiber will be in place, with access in every county across our Commonwealth, making this infrastructure project unlike any seen in Kentucky over the last 50 years. This broadband network will leapfrog Kentucky's current experience with dismal connectivity and slow speeds to give us some of the best service in the entire nation. The first stage in this project is to build the main broadband fiber lines across the state. That's called the middle mile. This is reflected on this map to my right. As you can see from this map, the first phase of constructing the middle mile fiber lines will concentrate on two places: along Interstate 75, the red line from northern Kentucky to Williamsburg, and then the red line extending around southeastern and eastern Kentucky. That is the first phase of this project. That will be done by April of 2016. The second phase of the project will extend the middle mile network across the entire state, including in far western Kentucky, by late fall of 2016. That's the blue line. It will also connect over 100 key facilities we call community anchor institutions, including universities, state government buildings, K-12 school districts, and community and technical colleges. Then, between 2016 and 2018, the project will continue to connect more government entities with the middle mile infrastructure. The private sector and local telecommunications service providers will construct and extend the last mile, the branches off of the main lines to deliver into communities, households, and businesses. The further from the middle mile these branch lines are built, the more government and education sites will come online. An important feature of this network is that it will be truly open access, meaning that other internet and cell phone providers can lease portions of this network, leading to competition for those services. Thus, it has the potential to lower consumer cost and improve cell phone coverage as well. Cell phone companies need middle-mile fiber in order to expand their coverage, and they will be able to use ours instead of building their own. Because we'll provide that infrastructure, the companies will be able to instead invest in additional towers or other technology to rapidly expand coverage into areas that previously were cell phone dead zones. As you know, extending broadband was one of the recommendations of SOAR, the Shaping Our Appalachian Region initiative. With the downturn in the coal industry, Eastern Kentucky's economy has taken some hits. And improved broadband infrastructure is seen as a key to strengthening the region's ability to build and to diversify that economy. That's why the focus begins first in Eastern Kentucky, and why the Center for Rural Development in Somerset partnered with the Commonwealth to lead the RFP process that resulted in Macquarie Capital getting this contract. Macquarie Capital has assembled a team of market-leading specialists to design, develop, and operate this network over the next 30 years. While Macquarie Capital will bear developmental and operational risk of the project, the Commonwealth will retain ownership of the network. The initiative will be a partnership of government at all levels and the private sector. Now, we're excited about this project. In addition to the short-term jobs created to build the actual infrastructure, a modern, high-capacity broadband system will have untold benefits across Kentucky and across our society. It will allow businesses to compete globally. It will allow educators to expand their use of rich teaching resources and to conduct research. It will allow students to access the knowledge of the world. It will allow healthcare entities to collaborate and share patient information. And it will allow first responders to communicate easily in emergency situations. But only if they use it. We're going to build the system, and we're going to make this system available. But it's up to our businesses, our communities, and our educational institutions to take advantage of this opportunity. This world is changing by the day, as we all know. Modern technology, communication systems are opening up possibilities that never existed before. Along with advances in education and healthcare, this high-speed broadband project positions our Commonwealth for a much more competitive future. Thank you very much. Now I want to invite my partner in this whole effort, a man who has done a tremendous job for his district and a tremendous job in Washington, Congressman Hal Rogers.
Governor, thank you very much for the nice introduction. Mr. Speaker, won't you join us on the stage up here? And Mr. Leader, it's good to be with you and all of you. What a day. This is by far one of the greatest Christmas gifts we could unwrap for the future of Kentucky. Last December in Pikeville at the SOAR Summit, the governor and I declared that Eastern Kentucky will overcome. And this is our launching pad. Today's announcement is not just about improving internet service, although it will. This is about new job opportunities, better education, better health care, enhanced public safety. For families who have been devastated by lost jobs in the coal mines, those who are struggling to afford Christmas gifts this year, this is a beacon of hope for new jobs in Eastern Kentucky. Our goal is to ensure that our people will not have to leave home for good-paying jobs. We can link our hospitals, our clinics, doctors with each other and with the world facilities. We can connect banks, colleges, vocational schools, and so on with anyone, anywhere in the world. We've been talking about the need for high-speed, high-capacity broadband for several years. In fact, we really started planning our work about 3 years ago at the Center for Rural Development under the leadership of Lonnie Lawson, who's here. And it's been Lonnie's dream for now a long time to bring this to fruition, and today we share that joy. To add to the governor's announcement, I'm happy to announce that another $10 million was secured in the omnibus bill that just passed the U.S. Congress, the federal funding legislation for fiscal 15, for the Appalachian Regional Commission for high-speed broadband in Central Appalachia. From this day forward, Macquarie Capital will be creating this dream network that will have a presence in every single county, first focusing, as the governor said, in eastern Kentucky, from Harlan County to Carter, from Pikeville to Williamsburg, in 2016. The people of rural eastern Kentucky will have access to a network that will change the way we do business. This, I think, is the modern-day equivalent of yesterday's interstate highway. This is the new interstate highway, and it's coming right down the pike for us. Construction will be completed simultaneously on the first phase, bringing the spine of the network from Cincinnati while building the lines from eastern Kentucky to connect to that spine. This project, I think, is the epicenter for our future as a state and as a region. Kentucky will no longer rank 46th in the nation for high-speed broadband internet. Kentucky's super highway, get it, will be the new I-75, but it will not be limited to a single route. Businesses, communities, and folks from across the state will be able to connect. In October, I took about 50 leaders from across eastern Kentucky on a charter bus to tour 5 businesses along I-75 that have access to higher speed internet. I called it the Silicon Holler Express. I wanted us to get a glimpse at the capability for these new jobs that cable can bring to all of eastern Kentucky. At every stop, the business owners and managers were singing our song. They talked about the importance of broadband to their operations, to their location choice, and future planning, coupled with the superior work ethic that exists in these hills and competitive costs for labor. Without hesitation, each one dreamed about the possibility of expansion once this new high-capacity broadband is available. For the first time in our history, eastern Kentucky will be equal to the world in limitless technology. No more boundaries sketched by our terrain, no more boundaries for high-tech work. In the past, we were limited by rough terrain and a shortage of modern highways. We can truly create a Silicon Holler and compete with the rest of the world because the cable levels those mountains and gives every county worldwide access. Jerry Rickett is the president of Kentucky Highlands Investment Corporation. He assisted several of these companies to locate in our region or expand their operations. And Governor, I would like to have Jerry say a few words about the importance of broadband in business recruitment and job creation in our region. Jerry, president of Kentucky Highlands, would you join us?
What a glorious day this is. When businesses contact the groups that do business development in eastern Kentucky and are asked the question, do you have broadband? In the past, we've been able to supply that in some very limited areas, but today we can answer them with a enthusiastic, yes, we can. The congressman and governor and the legislatures have made it possible to level the playing field. The congressman mentioned the 5 companies we visited. 3 of those were entrepreneurially led by Eastern Kentuckians, and there's hundreds of jobs that are being provided through access through the internet. We're able to sell to the world. Some of the partners we're working with, the governor and the congressman, have really challenged us to prepare. They're providing the access. They're encouraging the groups in Eastern Kentucky to be ready when the accesses come to exploit the jobs. We're working with ARH. ARH is requiring the vendors that they do business with to locate jobs in the hills. They've already located employment in Hazard from the vendor that provides the building services for them. And once the broadband's there, they're going to require their vendor to sell the services beyond the state. We're also working with our partner XCEP. Congressman, he has 500 folks looking for a job on his website. He has 350 new jobs vetted and identified that once the cable is there, he's going to be able to provide access to that. He's working in the area of coding and training our workers to be ready for this. So wanted to thank the congressman and the governor and the legislature for this wonderful opportunity for Eastern Kentucky, and it's great to be on an equal footing with the rest of the world. And thanks.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you. During that broadband tour, we also visited one of the largest employers in the region. It's in Williamsburg, and it's the U.S. State Department's Kentucky Consular Center. This is where they process all non-immigrant visas for the entire world at Williamsburg. Every year they process some 420,000 non-immigrant visas for the State Department, performing world-class facial recognition reviews for fraud detection. We also made a stop in Mount Vernon at Source HOV, where more than 450 employees are working diligently to reduce the backlog of disability claims of U.S. Military veterans. One of the most unique places, though, that we stopped was a local retailer in Corbin that started selling collectible hobby games in their home, launched an online store that was recently named one of the fastest growing companies by Inc. magazine. They employ 145 people and now boast annual sales of about $36 million in sales, with about 1/3 of that going offshore. The point of that tour was to prompt our Imagineering to consider the endless possibilities of businesses that we can attract with even faster broadband speeds. And since Kentucky will have a unique open access line, as the governor has said, other businesses will be able to lease portions of that network, giving them access to the infrastructure that would be cost prohibitive to expansion. I want to commend my partner, Governor Beshear, Senate President Stivers, Speaker Stumbo, the leader, and many in the legislature, all of them, in fact, for making this project a priority for Kentucky. I'll never forget the very first meeting of this group of leaders that we came to when I brought this idea, and all of them signed on then and there with the same fervor that I had for this project. And it's been a nonpartisan, cooperative effort by a lot of people down this chain of time. It's a great example of what we can accomplish with a strong nonpartisan partnership between federal, state, and local officials. The horizon is in view, not just from the mountaintops, but even from the valleys of eastern Kentucky. We will all be connected at last and able to compete with the world for the very first time in our history from home. And in the future, I think we'll be able to say with joy, I'll be home for Christmas. Governor.
We do want to thank the legislature for approving some $30 million in bonding that is going into this project. Part of the reason for SOAR's success so far is the leadership of our honorary co-chairs, President Robert Stivers, who couldn't be here today, but Speaker Greg Stumbo is here, and I'd like to call upon Greg.
Thank you, Governor, and thank you, Congressman Rogers. You know, it was just a year ago, almost to the day, when we had that gathering in Pikeville to sort of kick off the SOAR initiative. And it's obviously been a success. Just a few short weeks ago, Governor Beshear was in Salyersville to open the construction phase of the Mountain Parkway, which will give us a link back through a 4-lane interstate type highway system to central Kentucky. Last week, Governor Beshear was in Pikeville for a ceremonial signing of the Cole County Scholarship Bill, which will help us achieve some of the educational hurdles that we have in higher education, getting our kids to the 3rd and 4th year classes that they need for those baccalaureate degrees. And now we have another announcement. So I think that's noteworthy in 1 year that these two wonderful leaders have been able to make these 3 major announcements that obviously are going to make a difference in the future of my home and Eastern Kentucky. I was home, Governor, this last week and went Christmas shopping, and it's really a little bit sad. There's no coal trucks running up and down the highway, Rocky, like we're used to seeing on US 23. A lot of the businesses obviously are not as crowded as we'd like to see them, and it's pretty clear that this downturn has had an impact upon our region in a very, very, very severe way. Unfortunately, we learned in Washington back during the summer, Representative Adkins, myself, and Representative Overly, when talking with officials from the White House, that they had no plan in place, Mark, to help retrain the some 20,000 miners that have been laid off because of these policies of the administration. They had no plan to retrain the hundreds of workers that were affected by the ancillary jobs, the supporting jobs for this industry, probably as many as 100,000 people all total who've had their jobs impacted in this area. That's unfortunate in America that such poor planning has gotten us to the point where we are today in one of the most impoverished areas of America, Appalachia. That's one story. That's the bad part of the story. The good part of the story is that there are men like Steve Beshear and Hal Rogers and others who joined that SOAR conference a year ago who haven't given up on Eastern Kentucky, who do believe that there's hope in those mountains, and have taken the positive steps in the right direction to give opportunity in the future for those who may seem a rather bleak or seen a rather bleak time this Christmas. So again, Congressman Rogers, Governor Beshear, and all those involved, as an Appalachian resident, as a representative from the mountains, thank you on behalf of myself and my constituents.
Next, I want to call upon Secretary Larry Hayes of our Cabinet for Economic Development to discuss a little bit of what this broadband initiative means in that area.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Governor. I mean, it would be hard to overstate how transformational this is really going to be. And when you think about it, and when you have the opportunity like I do, and really the charge we have every day, to sit in a conference room and talk to people about doing business in Kentucky, bringing business to Kentucky. Oftentimes we're asked questions about whether you don't have this or you do have this, or you think about it. There is no one that is going to have a more robust infrastructure than we're going to have right here in this Commonwealth. Think about what that really means and the tool from the day of this announcement forward, how we're able to go talk about we are going to be the best. And all the data center projects that you hear about and you read about, and increasingly they're going to become more important. Kentucky becomes an attractive place, and not the normal places in Kentucky where you see projects that are locating. We've now opened up the state. Our most remote regions are going to be on a level playing field. You think about all of the opportunities to market with this new project. I mean, it makes us all very excited. But really what makes me excited is the congressman's story about the individual that starts a business in their home. You can be sitting in a remote region in eastern Kentucky or anywhere else in the Commonwealth, and you can have an idea, or you can have something that you want to build, you can create, you can access the global marketplace right there from your home. And you have the opportunity to be able to market that idea, that service, or that product. That's transformational. We've got to, as a cabinet and as a government, we've got to embrace those people with that enthusiasm and those ideas. And I think when you see how this project developed and the cooperation with the legislators that are here, with the speaker and the leader and the legislative branch and Congressman Rogers and the governor and the leadership from the local communities throughout the East, we can do this and help ourselves. It's not someone else helping us. It's that kind of entrepreneurial spirit where we help ourselves that we can now build on. And we can show people how to take that idea, to take that dream, and be able to build a successful business and grow opportunities. So it's exciting times, Governor and Congressman. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Before our next speaker, I want to say a special thanks to our team, led by Secretary Lori Flannery of the Finance Administration Cabinet, Commissioner Steve Rucker, and several others who have worked very, very hard to bring us to this point in time. And they still have a job to do because we've got a lot of phases to go through. And Macquarie Capital and the other companies are a part of those phases. And we've got to move this down the road. But thank you to our team for the great leadership that you have given the Commonwealth.
There's an old saying, Governor, the only thing bigger than a big idea is the team that can push it through.
Yeah, you're right. We want now to have Nick Hahn from Macquarie Capital come up and say a few words. Nick?
Thank you very much. On behalf of our whole team, Macquarie Capital, Jack Givens with the Bolin Group, Ed Crowston, First Solutions, Fujitsu, Black & Veatch, who are hiding somewhere in the back. I'd just like to say how honored we are by the trust that Kentucky has placed in us as their selected partner for this project. We'd like to commend the governor, the congressman, and all of their team for their vision in seeing open access broadband connectivity as a part of the basic infrastructure fabric of a vibrant economy. We're very committed to deliver the infrastructure and to work in partnership to facilitate collaboration with all of the stakeholders in Kentucky who will be able to use and benefit from this network. So thank you again for the trust you've placed in us, Governor.
Thank you.
Congressman, thank you.
Any questions?
Governor, how was this contract awarded? Was it a bid process?
We went through an RFP process and then an evaluation process before the contract was awarded.
How many bids did the state receive?
We actually received 4, and 2 of them ended up being considered to be responsive.
The range of the contract, 250 million, 350 million, that's a pretty big range there.
Well, let me try to bring some understanding to that. This is a public-private partnership approach. The state will be putting in their $30 million in bonding. We're going to be having some federal resources, and as you heard the congressman mention, that number may increase some, which will be great. But the bulk of the money that will build this network is from the private sector. We probably would never be able to build this kind of network if we were just depending upon tax dollars. And so the public-private partnership approach, I think, is essential to us building this project, completing this project. The first phase of this project is a design phase. And part of that work will be not only looking at how exactly you run some of these fiber lines, but also conversations with other companies that already have some broadband fiber in various parts of the state. And we're certainly hopeful that Macquarie Capital and their group will be able to bring those companies in and make some arrangements and deals for the use of that fiber so that we won't have to lay fiber in that particular part of the state. And that's where the variation in price will come in. If we're successful in bringing all of those folks on board, then it's going to cost us less to lay the rest of the fiber.
You mentioned that the state is going to retain ownership of this network.
Yes.
Would the state ever be providing internet service, or is it just going to be leasing it to companies that will provide the service?
Well, as I understand it, number one, we will own the network. Macquarie Capital and the consortium will have a 30-year contract to run and to operate and to maintain the network. And then we will be, as a network, and through them, be selling access to local providers who want to use all of this fiber to provide broadband access to their communities. And I think a great part of this approach is that it's an open access approach. So a community now may have only one provider of internet services, but this will allow any provider to come in, lease room on this fiber for their operation, and so it's going to encourage competition in all of our communities. And the whole network process will probably produce revenue that part of which the Commonwealth will receive.
That was also a question I had as well, but any estimates on what that would, how much that would?
We're not to that point yet, but we will be to that point this year in terms of further contracts that we will enter into after this design phase. And so we'll be able to answer those questions, I think, more clearly and realistically in the next few months.
And will this cable be below ground or above ground?
It'll be a combination of both aerial and buried.
That's part of the design, trying to figure out exactly what works best in each geographic portion of the Commonwealth.
Congressman, the $10 million you mentioned in the omnibus bill, is that in addition to the federal grants, or is that part of the federal grants?
It's in addition.
Okay.
This is in the 015 spending bill for the rest of the year for the government, for the Appalachian Regional Commission, and it will be their business to distribute those funds.
Certainly we'll be applying for those funds. I must say it is nice when your congressman is the chairman of the House Appropriations Committee.
Will you be asking anything from the 2015 General Assembly related to this?
At this point, we don't anticipate any additional request to build out this network.
Governor, do you have any connections with any of the principals of these companies that are involved in this? Have they donated to your campaign? Or?
Not as far as I know. I do have one connection. I cheered like heck for Jack Gibbons when we won the championship in 1978. I was in St. Louis when he took us on his back and brought us home with the title. But no, I have no connection with anybody that I know of.
Can Macquarie tell us a little bit where you're from?
And also, I had nothing to do with the selection. The selection was in this process. So.
And have you ever done anything like this before?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, certainly. So Macquarie we're actually an Australian headquartered financial services group, but we're a very large investor in the U.S. in the field of infrastructure in particular. We run the largest infrastructure investment funds in the world, and many of the investors in those funds are large U.S. pension companies, life insurance companies, and the like. We are a specialist in public-private partnerships. We have been trusted as a partner of governments here in the U.S. and right around the world to deliver, everything from highways, ports, airports, schools, hospitals, and telecommunications assets. We've been a big owner of an investor in telecom assets. This trend towards using the public-private partnership model for broadband connectivity is a relatively new one. And again, I commend the governor and the congressman for their vision in that. But I think it's a very important trend, really recognizing that this is the basic infrastructure of today's world. It's as basic as a fixed telephone wire or a highway or the electricity wire that comes to your house.
And your title, sir?
I'm Senior Managing Director with Macquarie.
Yeah, is this project truly unique? Have other states done anything similar to this?
Many cities and states around the country are looking at similar opportunities. Many at the state and local level have taken smaller steps towards this. At the moment, there are some 320 communities around the country who are taking steps towards this. But I think it's fair to say that Kentucky is the first state that has embarked on a middle mile project of this scale using the PPP model.
Have you been to Eastern Kentucky?
I have been to Somerset. I haven't been much further than that yet, but I've had many invitations to come. And to be honest, until today, we have not been allowed to get out into the communities and talk to many of the stakeholders. Great, thank you.
Go ahead.
Actually, Goose Givens.
Now we're getting down to the serious stuff.
Yeah. Is really more important to this day than you may realize. Lonnie Lawson at the center had been working on this concept for 3 years or so. And somehow Jack Givens learned about it and came to my office. I don't know when this was, Goose.
Year and a half ago.
What?
Year and a half.
Year and a half ago. And we began to talk about this. He was connected with some company that I think later notified others, and sort of he was sort of the tripwire that got the industries involved and at least thinking about participating in this project. So again, the Goose led the way.
We're going to have a little one-on-one game after this. Anybody else have a question?
He's going to win Saturday.
What do you think, Goose?
Platoon number 2.
All right.
If I could, real
Sure.
quick. I would like to, I'm getting a lot of credit for this, but the fact of the matter is we have a great team. One thing I learned playing basketball was a project this big, you just can't do by yourself. You don't win championships by yourself. I was very fortunate when I went into the congressman's office that he was all ears and gave me an opportunity to present some of the thoughts I had on the network that he was planning on building. And through that, I was able to get Macquarie, along with a lot of other First Solutions and, of course, Bowling Group, which I represent, get them on the same page, and we've been able to put this together. So I, too, would like to thank Steve and your group for being open and for allowing us to come in. And negotiations have not always been easy, but they've been fair. We're excited about this project. I'm excited about being a part of it. And I'm extremely, extremely excited for the people of the state of Kentucky. Because in this deal, Kentucky is the winner. And with the jobs and the education levels that will be increased by what we are setting forth to do, once again, I'm just happy to be a part of it. So thanks very much, Mr. Governor, for giving me a little credit. I don't accept it, but it's been fun. And Congressman, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, oh, all right.
If the state owns the network, does that mean you're gonna be able to read our emails?
He already can.
You mean including the ones I read last night? I have no idea. And quite honestly, I don't think I'd spend the time reading your emails.
Mr. Gibbons, what company are you with for us?
My company is the Bolin Group, B-O-W-L-I-N. We're located in Walton, Kentucky. Father, son owned Kerry Bolin and Blevins Bolin, started the company some 18 years ago or so, and been going at it ever since.
I think there's a list of all of the different companies in there and a blurb about each one of them that's a part of this consortium. In addition to the folks up here now, what, Black and Veatch?
Yeah.
They're here, and who else is not up here? We got everybody?
Could Black and Beach come up? I was looking for you in the haste.
Would this broadband, like the neighboring states, like Pike County, over Virginia, people like in Grundy, nearby, would they benefit from this? Because if you can't.
Yeah, I'm sure they will.
Well, go ahead, Nick. Come on.
Yeah, certainly. So the network will connect with, basically it'll connect with the internet in adjoining states. It'll provide a backbone that adjoining states, could also access if they see fit. It is a network that's intended primarily to link Kentucky and to link Kentucky to the world, but there will be knock-on effects to adjacent states as well.
And if somebody wants to lease a little portion of it, they can pay. They would pay us. They would pay us. Okay.
Congratulations, Governor.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.